Welch vignettes, and I went right to a 10 like in 2 seconds. So I'm
There
cool.
you go. There you go. I'm sliding in at a 9, and I know that will be increasing, but I like to have a little bit of room. I like to feel the improvement. Charlie.
10.
David.
10.
Diane.
11.
All right.
All right.
Due to that friendly conversation I had yesterday, I just woke up with 11.
That's good.
Right.
Excellent. Pete.
You know, Diane, you just made my day. I'm 11 because Diane's 11, and it doesn't. It can, but you know, thank you, Diane. We're 11, please.
We'll take that. Ron.
Had to unmuzzle there. So I will be an 8, and so that means, and we're an average of 10. I just got out of a presentation up in North County around connecting through to transitioning service members as a leadership initiative sponsor through Onward Up. So pretty good day. Starting off the day right, and here I am.
Very good. Who does that leave? Rachel?
Rachel. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to slide in at a 9 too, like you, Rich. Leave a little room for improvement. And I'm going to switch to my car, but I'll be back on shortly. I'll still be listening. Okay.
John has a hand.
No, I just wanted to mention, if we were judges at a figure skating competition, everybody would win the gold medal.
Little battles.
10, 10, 10,
And,
9, 8, 10, 10.
I just noticed, you guys see my cup? My Starbucks. This is
Starbucks.
like product placement. Starbucks should be paying me to do this.
Right. Right.
That's for the muster, Maurice, when we publish. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Maurice, did we do David?
I think we did do David. David checked in at a 10.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'll check in at a 10 also, just to kind of keep it line. Keep it the high margins there.
Very good. I'm feeling good energy today. Let's get my screen up. Let's get going here. We have a new topic today. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All we need. So today's topic is locus of control. We talk about locus of control all the time. It's really important, but I don't think we actually have done a focused muster on locus of control. And we're gonna get in there and not only understand deeper what it is, but how it can be applied to help people. So basically, locus of control, how much a person believes they have control over the events in their life. And then I like to have a reflection question. It's like, how can two different beliefs radically impact someone's life as much as a locus of control? So I'm going to continue on. And
Pete's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks for helping facilitate, Maurice.
Go ahead, Pete.
I don't know where the group is, or where our belief in this, but do we really live in a deterministic world that things are already predetermined, structures, whatever, different religions and things that we have to operate in, but it seems there is a little bit of truth that we live in a deterministic world, but it is our will, our determination that can make the difference in a predeterministic world. I don't know. This is probably not the subject that relates to it. I don't know. I'm so glad Rich and Maurice is here, and Charlie, maybe they could, shut me up for a minute or two.
You can always count on Pete to open up a provocative can of worms. Someone has a
Oh boy.
Charlie's got his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. There's only one thing in this world that we can control, and that is our attitude, our words, and how we present ourselves to the world. External stimulus will weigh on us if we allow it to get into our brain.
Very good.
So Pete, I will add my 2 cents on that. And my short answer is no, we do not live in a predetermined world. Everything runs its own course based upon our perceptions, especially the locus of control, what's either controlling us on the inside or controlling us on the outside, and what is our position to allow that to happen. And so this is why I'm really fascinated that Rich chose this particular topic. And so, yeah, because it fits. It fits. You're in control if you want to be in control. Let me just say it like that. A lot of people don't want to be in control because it's a scary thing. But back over to you, Rich.
Yeah, and we talk about it in Reboot Workshop, Pacific Institute. It's one of their core pillars, and we're going to continue this conversation that we just started. So let's talk about what it is first. Basically, the concept was developed by a psychologist, Julian Rotter, in the 1950s as a personality trait. And he first published about it in 1966. So basically, the high-level definition was locus of control is a psychological concept that describes how much a person believes they can control the events that happen to them. Simply put, it's belief in our control over outcomes. Comment.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you can achieve whatever you believe. The question is, what do you believe? Who's gotten inside your head, and who's taking up residence there, and what are you allowing to happen? And again, it's the foundation of the military, because the whole process of joining the military is that you essentially have to give up control of your life. You have to agree to it. You have to declare it in writing to become part of the military system and go and do everything that's required, sacrifice yourself, the whole 9 yards. And then at some point, which is, is very interesting, but then at some point in time, and here's where I think Rich might possibly be going, how do you get the locus of control back after you've given it up to somebody else?
So are you saying that the military imposes an external locus of control?
I wouldn't say imposes. It's part of the agreement that you have to willfully give it up and agree to it. Okay.
So let's think about that. Let's let that percolate as we dive into this. So according to Rotter, there are 2 types of locus of control. There's an internal locus of control and an external. With the internal, we'll do high level, then we'll dive deeper into each of these. So with internal locus of control, individuals believe they can influence events and their outcomes through their own efforts, decisions, and actions. They tend to feel responsible for success or failure of their endeavors. With the external locus of control, individuals believe that external forces like fate, luck, or other people have more influence over their lives and outcomes. They often feel that they do not have control over what happens to them. So these 2 beliefs can have a huge impact on someone's behavior. Someone can believe that they don't have control over their actions or what happens to them. Others can believe that they have full agency over their actions and outcomes. So some of the research shows that it's likely that the orientation of your locus of control is influenced by how a person experienced rewards and punishments as they grew up. Okay.
Charlie's got his hand up, and Diane has her hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, very quickly. On a personal level, all of us either attract people into our lives or the opposite. People run away when we enter, and we have total control of that situation based on our thoughts, our actions, our beliefs, and how we present ourselves to the world.
Very good, Diane.
Diane?
I think the only one who has total control over the outcome of something is God. And I think that Charlie's right about our words, our sense of direction are going with a certain energy, but we can't control everything. And I think we need to recognize that something greater does control us and that it will be for the better, whether it seems so at the time or not.
Interesting.
Thanks.
Very good.
Ron's got his hand up, and then Maurice.
All right. Okay, Ron. He knows I'm just sitting here smiling and taking everything in. Ron.
Yeah, I was getting ready to. Had to get back to my button that's released my muzzle. Okay, so there is the responsibility formula. Recently spent some time on. We're working on, and the formula is E plus O plus M equals 100% when in the responsibility formula. E is events and circumstances. O is others, and me could be me individually or us as a collective. So there's only 100% in the value. So every outcome is a resultant of we've heard things are overcome by events. So the E is environmental or circumstantial things that are outside of my control. O is other people who are outside of my control. And me is sometimes in my control, sometimes not. But it still equals, when you talk about the responsibility in terms of success or less than success, is in there. And then Kurt Lewin's formula is behavior equals, and it's little f, and then in parentheses, P plus E. So, and then close parentheses, which is behavior equals a function of the person and their environment. So if I'm in the room with someone, I'm part of their environment, so I can have an influence on their behaviors, and vice versa. If my boss is around, that influences my behavior. If my spouse is around, that's part of my environment. So this is a very complicated thing, which in essence, I don't have ultimate control, but as a person of agent, I have partial control over the outcome.
Very good.
So
and
Pete's got his hand up, and
remembered
then
all
Maurice
of
after
that.
Pete.
Yeah, Ron, you remembered all of that as you're driving a vehicle. So now I know Ron has at least a partial photographic memory.
Partial. Okay. Pete and then Maurice.
One word, purpose for our internal locus of control speaks volumes. Purpose, purpose, purpose. So I ask, and there might not be, then what be the formula for purpose?
Okay.
So Rich, I think just to put things in perspective for me, because, again, there are external things and internal. When it comes to internal, now we're talking about, the types of locus of control. So can you control external things that happen? No, none of us can control what happens externally with someone else, but how we approach it in terms of whether or not we are impacted by what happens externally, we do have control over that. And so, yes, there are external things that people are going to do. Can I control what other people do? No, but I can control how I respond to it and how I react to it. So when you talk about locus of control, you are always kind of sort of in control, because again, the locus is how you're responding and how you are reacting. You are ultimately responsible for your thoughts. No one else is responsible. Now, you can go, what's that old phrase we use? You can go along to get along, but you still have to give permission of yourself to others that says, okay, I may not agree with what you say, but I'm going to go along with it. So
Wow.
you're always the primary owner of everything. Again, it's just, and this is a powerful subject that you picked out, Rich. You're always in control in terms of whether or not you want to play or not play. It's always up to you.
And that's very rational discussion there. Very good. And with a little bit of like how to, that's called rational emotive therapy. What you just gave us a taste of.
Yep. Ron's got his hand up.
That might be another topic. Ron.
Yeah.
So Maurice and I had a little bit of discussion about this. Is the subordinating my locus of control to something else. When I went in the military, I subordinated my control to the boot camp. I subordinated my control to the greater mission. So we do have a potential to subordinate our control to something different. Then once we leave the military, if I have overly relied on that control based on my subordination to a bigger thing and let it run my life, whatever it decides, that's my thing. That happens again when we leave our places of employment at retirement. And I was talking to Maurice, it may not be causal, but it's incredibly coincidental or coinciding that suicide amongst the 18 to 30 is a high coincidence of people leaving the military, and then veterans, when they leave their employment at 55 to 65, also is a high rate of suicide, because not being able to exist fully well when I am fully executing my will, not subordinating my will to somebody else to control me.
Charlie's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think we need to consider different levels of life. It all depends on the outcome we're looking for, whether we run toward a situation or back down from a situation. What kind of impact is it going to have, and what percentage of life is it going to have? And that's another way of looking at it.
Well, and I would add on top of that always remember that we are creatures of habit, and we operate off of an autonomic response system. In other words, what we learn over time, the habits that we form become our behaviors, and those behaviors become actions. So if I'm used to taking care of myself, if I'm a Rachel, and if I'm used to taking care of myself and leading, being responsible, being accountable, being very active, the whole 9 yards, then, I'm going to live, kind of like a very productive life. But if I'm in the military and I have acquiesced my locus of control, which a big majority of us do to a more or less degree, if I don't continue to develop those habits of taking care of myself, if I don't develop that along the way, if I let somebody else take care of important aspects of my life, when they stop doing it, and then I have to do it, I have no muscle memory. I have no experience in that area. And again, a lot of what we do, 90% of what we do is really based on habit, what we learned before. Again, the brain, like Rich always says, the brain is lazy. We don't want to have to think about things. That's why we have habits. Habits take the burden off of us to have to think about it, because that's programmed into us over time. And so we just naturally do it. But when we have to think about it, it drains us. And then now we're in a whole nother space. Rich, back over to you.
Very good.
Amen.
So let's dig it a little deeper for a little deeper understanding. I'm reminded by this group, which really has become a mastermind alliance, that the emotional intelligence is at such a level that, science definitely has a say in this, but also philosophy and even theology all have legitimate input into this topic and the evolution of it. So let's continue on. A little more detail. The internal locus of control means that control comes from within. You have personal control over your own behavior. When you have an internal locus of control, you believe you have personal agency over your life and actions. Because of this, these people with internal locus of control tend to have more self-efficacy, which means confidence that you can succeed, personal responsibility and accountability. And if you fail, you take responsibility, learn, and move forward. Resilience and driven towards success, taking control of your work and personal goals. And internal locus of control people tend to be better off than those who don't, with less anxiety, depression, and health issues. Okay, now that's just science. Characteristics of an internal locus of control, some of the beliefs that you may have. By working hard and practicing self-control, it's possible to achieve anything I set out to do. It's always possible to change fate by making the right choices. We can start over in life at any point we choose. Our choices and actions influence our happiness. With dedication and determination, you can succeed. If we want to change, we need to change our behavior. It's entirely up to us. And it's important to set goals and create a personal vision statement so that my short-term actions can influence my long-term outcomes. Okay.
Hey,
So again, perfect description of Rachel. But let me kind of go back. Rich, you remember a couple of weeks ago in the class, one of the things that I said to the students, we always say this to them, is that we tell them that they are perfect. And rarely does anyone say that to us, that we are perfect. Mainly because most people would never believe it. Like, nobody's perfect. But again, it really is in the definition of what do you mean by perfect? And what is meant by perfect is that we are built and designed perfectly. We respond to information and data from the outside world that gets inside of us. Once it's inside of us, then we react to that. But as far as how the system works, the human system really works, I would say flawlessly. It's just that some of the data, the input, the information, the examples that we get may not be as congruent, with our vision in life. That all being said, everything that goes on here in terms of the internal locus of control, if one practices that, they can live the life that they want, Oddly enough, there are some people out there who live a nearly perfect life. And we've come across them from time to time.
Yeah.
And again, are they any different than any of us? No, they're not different. It's just their perception of reality and their locus of control and how they're viewing and taking responsibility. Stuff is going to happen. Can you change if somebody else decides to step on your foot, can you change that? Not really, but you can surely control how you react and respond to it. Rachel's got her hand up, and then Pete's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think you said, Maurice, we are perfectly designed hardware.
Yes.
By the creator with faulty software at times.
Yes.
Garbage in, garbage out, but the processor is perfect.
It's like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. Rachel first, and then Pete.
Okay. So I learned something about myself today. Thanks, Maurice. My bar has gotten even higher. I don't know how it can get any higher, by the way. But my dad said something to me when I was a child, and he's like, you're my number 10 child. And I'm like, you're number 10 child? And he said this as I got older. And I never understood what he was talking about, and I always say we're all perfectly imperfect. And so, I don't know, like I said, what that is, but this locus of control. So, Rich, I thank you for reading that description. And I did resemble a lot of that in my head. I was like, oh, okay. So I did learn something about myself, today. But I also have learned going through life that, when it's a part of, I think of myself in a kayak sometimes in 2 oars. And if you throw one of those oars and for help or something like that, then that's okay. Maybe you need that help, and then you invite somebody else with the control. But otherwise, I just kind of try to think of myself as this is my responsibility, leading back to kind of what Maurice was saying. Ultimately, I'm responsible for my thoughts and my actions. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me learn some more about myself and understand how my father would always tell me about being a number 10 in his eyes. So that brought back memories.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I am just happy, very happy for that feedback.
Pete's after that, Rich. Go ahead.
Okay, Pete.
There is the Bible, and some of us grew up in a Christian family, but I don't even want to say that. What I want to say is that is the Bible for me, and its teachings has been instrumental, and to that own self be true. These also very much, in my belief, relate to your internal locus of control. Give Caesar what is due Caesar, you know what I mean? And give to the church what is due the church. These are principles, founding principles that strengthen our internal locus of control, because I know God has been there for all of our, and is there for all of our service members, regardless if we just call on him. But again, the Bible and mindfulness can show us, that internal, and strengthen that internal locus of control is my belief.
Right. Thank you for that. And in the title, when I say, what is your default? I say that partially because everyone on this call is a learner and a personal development growth person. So we really enjoy learning and growing out of our comfort zone. So I often refer to default to this group, because I believe that we have a default that we then expand from. But sometimes when you're under stress or frustration or anxiety or crisis, you kind of revert back to the default, and then you have to take stock and move forward.
Charlie's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think life, as Ken Blanchard has read and written many books on situation, I think life is situational. And if we have capability to adapt like a chameleon, then we go in and out as needed.
Exactly. Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
External locus of control means that control stems from external forces. When you have an external locus of control, you believe that events outside of your control drive your actions and the outcomes you get. So you feel like you believe or feel like you're at the whim of external forces, don't have the power to control yourself or outcomes, can often feel victimized and blame others, and don't try to take effective actions to change your behavior or outcomes because you think it really is not worth it. Some of the characteristics of an external locus of control is that life events are all about luck and chance. People don't have a lot of control over what happens in the world. You have little to no control over your own life. Outside forces are exercising control instead. And long-term goal setting isn't worth it, because outside events outside your control can disrupt them. And it's better to go with the flow and just see what happens. What happens to people isn't related to what they really deserve. Good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. And this can create a learned helplessness in the face of these situations.
So Rich, this made me think about my relationship when I was in the military, with the military, and that essentially what you're saying here on the external locus of control, and this is what we do with the military, is that we rent ourselves to Uncle Sam. And so in renting ourselves through the agreement, benefits and everything else, hey, take me and do whatever. And the one thing that kind of stood out for me was bullet number 3, which is those characteristics of it, external locus of control. I have little to no control over my own life. In the military, that's sort of like part of the plan is, giving it up. And then outside forces are exercising control instead, which is, again, that's an agreement. I'm like, yes, tell me when do you want me to deploy, what do you want me to do, how long do you want me to work, the whole 9 yards. And I'll do that for 4 years, even if it costs me my life. I'm going to rent myself out to you for this time, which means in order for me to complete that transaction, I have to give you, the military, complete and absolute control over me, 100%. I do not control at that particular point. I do not control my destiny. You control my destiny. And I agree. And see, here's the thing. And I agree to the terms and conditions. And I don't have to like it. It's not about me. It's like me following orders, doing what I'm told up to the end if necessary. It's very, very powerful. And again, something like that, if you get used to it for too long, it's going to be hard to really gain control back over your life, because again, everything is based on experience, what you learned over time.
Right.
You have to learn how to take care of yourself. And if you haven't been taking care of yourself, abruptly having to do it causes the tailspin. Ron's got his hand up.
And before Ron goes, if you are in the environment of conditioning of the external, forces, then you come out of the military to civilian life, and you are now expecting the external environment to basically take care of you. What happens?
And let me just say that, and this is where people often conflate TAP with something else, which is, okay, they're thinking, well, military, you've been doing this all this time. And so when I get ready to get out, you got to show me how to survive, as an independent person. And then when we get out and we don't get it, then who do we blame? Yeah. We always think of, because every time we are traveling around and we're asking people what's going on and tell us about your transition, they always blame TAP because TAP didn't help them. Mm-hmm. You didn't show me how. Ron's got his hand up.
Yeah, when I think about control, there are some things I have absolutely no control over. I had no control over where I was born, when I was born, and who my relatives were. I have little control over my exposures. Some control because I'll put myself in an environment or enlisted in the military. So I had some control over enlisting, but the exposures beyond that, I had little control over. And so I think I don't have nearly as much control over my environmental or circumstantial exposures. Where I do have, that goes back to my formula of the me in the equation. The me in the equation, I have reasonably more control over it than I do any other function in that formula. And preparation, I have control over preparation for things, for coping in advance, preparing in advance, thinking in advance, determining in advance how I will respond when a certain pitch comes across the plate and the stitches are rotating in a certain way. I know whether to lean forward or lean back, swing up, swing down. But I have no control over which pitch is going to get pitched.
Very good. Thank you. So let's take a look at the role.
Can I just make one comment that while Ron has no control over what gets pitched, he does, like we all do, have control how we react and respond to it.
Okay. So let's take a look at how this kind of may manifest in day-to-day life. At first glance, it might seem like an internal locus of control is always more desirable to have. However, an internal locus of control isn't automatically good. Likewise, an external locus of control isn't automatically bad. It depends on context and situation, even though an internal locus of control has showed that people are healthier and have higher achievement. So let's take a look at the different perspective. Let's talk about career success. So an internal locus of control, a person may say, I got this promotion because I worked hard, I improved my skills, and consistently exceeded my performance targets. External locus of control, I got lucky with this promotion. It was really about being in the right place at the right time, and the company just needed to fill the position. Okay.
It's called the definition of luck.
Let's look at
the
it.
definition of luck is when preparation and opportunity collide.
That's right. And you might see a little bit of both there. Okay. Health management, internal locus. Maintaining my health is within my control. I choose to eat healthy, exercise, and avoid smoking so I can stay healthy. The external locus. Health is mostly about genetics or luck. No matter what I do, it's really up to fate whether I stay healthy or not. Two more examples. A job loss, internal. I could have seen the signs of the company's troubles and started looking for a new job sooner. I need to be better prepared next time. The external locus, there was nothing I could do about losing my job. The economy is terrible and the industry is feeling it's out of my hands. And then here's one for students or someone taking an exam. The internal, I passed the exam because I organized my study schedule well, used effective learning strategies, put in the necessary effort. The external locus, the exam was easier than I expected. Luckily, the questions just happened to be on the topics I knew best.
So number 3 stands out for me, because I see that a lot with people, in terms of, okay, I'm getting out the economy, the economy's bad. Well, depending upon how you see it, the economy is bad or the economy is great. It just depends on where you are, and what you're doing overall. But there are always winners and losers all the time. If anybody goes to Las Vegas, chances of somebody losing is good. Chances of somebody winning is good. It's just always, that's where philosophically all things exist in the universe all the time. Yeah. And so it just depends on your perspective and how you engage.
Right. So when you apply wisdom to how and when I want to maybe exercise a particular locus of control. So in my mind, I'm looking at this. One of the locus I think would have a higher rate of success, but it also requires more effort and input. Whereas the other one, the external, some things may come your way, things may not, but it really doesn't take a whole lot of effort. If you say, I'm just going to go and see what happens. So I think that's why they say internal locus of control, and I'll call it internal locus of behavior and attitude. The people tend to be healthier and achieve more things, kind of thing.
So Pete's got his hand up, and then Maurice has got another comment about that one. Go ahead, Pete.
No one will erase what you have done. Your work, ethics, or whatever, especially your work, your contribution will speak for itself, regardless of layoffs, regardless of who retain their job momentarily. Your efforts, your work, what you have done speaks for itself. I'm still very proud, even though that I got laid off, with my SOP, Standard Operating Procedure for Camp Pendleton. I made a difference. Just keep in mind, you are making a difference regardless of external factors. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Maurice.
John's got his hand up, and then Maurice will go after John.
Yeah, the one thing I've been thinking a lot about is a sign that we have in a lot of social work offices, which says I can't control what's happened, but I sure as hell can control the way I respond to it. The only other comment I wanted to make was that in the previous slide, I saw the word I a lot. I never saw the word we. Everything falls on me. If I'm going to be successful, I have to do it. If I'm going to be a failure, then it's my fault. When we talk about we can't necessarily control the outcomes of a lot of things, which is certainly true. We can't control a lot of things that happen in life because we don't have control over them, but we can sure control the way we respond to things that happen that we don't like. And oftentimes that does involve asking somebody else for a little help And so, yeah, I may not be able to, I may have a bad outcome to something, but if I look outside of myself for a little help, sometimes I can actually change the outcome. So,
Right.
One thing that's in that previous slide is like that we haven't talked about yet is the focus on the individual and not any acknowledgement of the fact that the individual can sometimes ask others for help to help them change a situation they don't like.
Right. Good point. Because we talk about it being an element of your personality, and I believe that people have a predominant tendency, like some people, the glass is half full, the glass is half empty at a starting point. And I think some of it is done through conditioning, like they said, or experiences of reward and punishment, because when you're talking about, yes, we can grow and develop and we can round out our personalities, but there seems to be some core things that through conditioning we'd go through and we'd have to change them dramatically. And that leads to, can you identify with both types of locus control? So while some people may strictly identify with a single type, many people may identify with a little bit of both. So it's possible, to mostly have an internal locus of control while still believing that some things are up to chance. And I believe that. The opposite is true as well. Someone with an external locus of control may believe that they have some agency in their lives, even if it's minimal.
So Ron's got his hand up, and then Marissa go after Ron.
Yeah, Rich, there's a third kind of person that thinks the glass is twice as big as it needs to be. So there's that. But now I've come across, here's an example. Two people, one studies incredibly hard just for hours and hours and days and walks away with an F. And one doesn't study at all and walks away with an F. And there's some research that the person who didn't study will be happier because I didn't really put any energy in it. What did I expect? If I would have gotten it, it'd been fine. If I didn't, it's fine. And so the idea of how much energy is expended, some people don't want to expend any energy.
That's true.
And so can you live with both? We all live with both. But I think it kind of goes back to what you believe you can do or what you can achieve. And again, it's about now we're getting into, I guess you could call it the essence of self-image, self-confidence, self-talk. What is it that you believe, and do you really understand the whole law of attraction that says ultimately thoughts become things? And this is where and why a person can come from quote unquote the ghetto or from a non-affluent life and then one day become the most powerful person in the world, i.e. a Barack Obama who just started out as a little kid with nothing, a family that was sort of like broken. He was just pulling it all together, and then one day this guy is now the most powerful man on the planet, and it's because of, again, he believed in it. So again, what goes on in his head and his locus of control, and when you listen to people, they tell you who they are. If you really sit down and listen to them long enough, they'll let you know what they believe, what they don't believe, what they value, what they don't value, what their confidence is. I mean, they will tell the whole story. But again, you just have to be patient enough just to sit there and listen, and they will tell you.
That's
Pete's
right.
got his hand up, and then Charlie.
Look, that is spot on. I believe that wholeheartedly. Also, there's something that we hear every once in a while in a muster is fake it till you make it. Now, I'm a strong opponent of that. Just be all that you can be. Study hard. Do what you can. Build your networks. I don't know where or when in our society are thinking fake it till you make it. It doesn't really address core issues of self-confidence and other locus of controls, if you will. So that's my 2 cents. It's probably been devalued to 1 cent, but hey.
Very good.
Thank
very,
you.
very good. Charlie.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. It's all situational. It's all how it will impact your life. How important is it in your life? Is it, should I get involved or should I acquiesce and back up?
Okay, good. So understanding your locus of control, then we're going to apply it for a couple minutes. So when you understand what motivates your actions, it's easier to create a plan of action to get where you want to go. In addition, research shows that a person's locus of control can affect their experience of stress and overall happiness. With personal mastery and development and coaching, you can actually help shift the focus and improve your sense of agency or control. No matter which type of locus of control drives your motivation, you can accelerate your personal growth by understanding some of these things. Okay, so the big question, let's say you're a coach or you're working on yourself. How can you increase someone's internal locus of control? And I'm gonna type.
Okay, I'll kick it off. The first thing is showing them how to control their self-talk.
Love it. Next.
And along with that self-talk, self-confidence.
Okay.
Lead by example.
Be mindful.
And also, you might as well put in there, improve your self-image, which is, believing in yourself. Because you got to see yourself as in order for this thing to work. Ron's got his hand up.
TITA, take it to action. Once you get engaged, it's easy. Once you get a car in motion, it's easier to steer it.
Rachel's got her hand up, and then John's got his hand up. Great, Rachel. Okay, she's having mic muting challenges. Let's go to John, and then we'll come back to Rachel. Wait a minute. There we go. We got her.
Hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was saying practice your affirmations. So practice what you want to be.
You just
even,
stole my
to
next
work
one.
on your confidence.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
I love it.
Sorry, Charlie stole mine, so I had to think of another one.
Good, John.
When in doubt, ask for help.
Okay.
Be genuine.
Okay.
I got one more, which is understand the law of attraction. Thoughts become things.
And as I was thinking about this today, and I was asking my wife for those, I realized that we're a whole room of people that I think have an internal locus of control, giving advice for external locus of control people what to do. It's not hard for us to do that, especially since we talk about something. But I think to myself, what are the obstacles from someone that has a external locus of control from doing all of this? How do they break through from those ingrained habits of externalizing everything to actually adopt things like this? I think it can be very difficult. And a couple of other things that I got when I was asking, my wife what she thought. I said, be as practical as you can. And she said, write down small achievable goals that will reinforce that you can influence your success. Having accountability partners, individual or group, to keep motivated to focus and finish. Reward yourself for achievements. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your progress. Really learn about your negative feelings. Change your perspective on failing to a learning opportunity. Manage your negative feelings. Don't dwell on them, and be aware of negative self-talk. But
so
how do you?
We got one more. Okay, I was gonna say we got one more hand with Pete, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up.
How do you help someone break out of the external to start accepting some internal? Okay, Pete.
On our last week's muster, and thank you for putting it at the bottom there, I couldn't agree more. Studies have shown that experiencing flow can help guard against depression and burnout. And that's what I use. I use flow to guard against my depression and burnout. Thank you, Rich, for putting that there. That's just so relevant.
Hey, Rich, and just the final formula, since Ron gave us a formula a little while ago, I'm going to give us another formula, which is the letter I times V equals R. Equals R. And what that means is, again, this is inside your head. What you can imagine, if you make it very vivid, it becomes reality. Because why? Because you say so. And that's how thought processes work. Imagination times vividness, that's how the mind works, equals reality. So you make your own reality.
Right, right. So we take a lot of time and effort in the reboot training to focus on developing understanding and habits for internal locus of control. We identify external locus of control. I think there is some benefit to that, so that you're not like discounting everything that has a structure to it, but you're taking the internal, I'll call it responsibility and accountability that you can achieve. And if you're working within a structure, that's great. Get smart and wise within that structure. But, you know, really as coaches, I think we really have to be empathetic about someone that is just totally conditioned into the external. I know people that are, their default is completely negative and blaming. And I think sometimes there's some deep reasons why people would constantly blame, you know, it's like their own self-confidence and their own self-esteem and things like that. I think people can really be stuck. So we really work hard at developing the internal locus of control, behaviors, actions to results. That's my closing. And it's at the top of the hour. So thank you, everyone. And I hope you can think about this and practice it during the week. Have a blessed weekend and a blessed week. We'll see you next week.
Another great subject. Thank you, Rich. Excellent.
All right.
Good job.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Have a good week.
Thanks,
Bye,
Rich.
all.
Have a good week.
Have a good weekend.
All right.